Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Welcome to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz, hanging out with Mark here for a while. And Mark, it is awfully good to be back with you today.
Ron, always happy to be here. Good to talk to you as well.
We have a lot of important things to talk about today, as usual. Mark Silverman, of course, is your certified financial planner professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman & Associates. And today we're going to talk about some things that will certainly interest you and help you in your plan for retirement. First of all, you need a plan. That is the key word. And the number to call or text to get in touch with Mark is 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. Simply call and leave a message. And if you're texting, make sure you put your first and last name there. And Mark's office will get back with you first part of the week, and you can set a time to come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman. Again, it is 520-333-7601. Mark, let's talk about getting out of your own way. Some people have problems getting out of their own way, but let's talk about some of the common ways that people get in their own way when it comes to financial planning. Number one thing that folks do is, and I'm sure you've got a lot of examples of this, allowing fear or perhaps greed to cause them to buy or sell at the wrong time.
That is correct. And that brings up, one of my favorite lines that I use is there are plenty of difficult obstacles in your path. Don't allow yourself to become one of them. And so, but, Ron, you did make a good point. Fear or greed, if you look, and I think an interesting statistic is if you look at the average equity mutual fund investor and see what they've returned versus what that actual fund has returned, you'll see that those numbers are always much less than the fund does. And the whole reason is because people get in and out at the wrong times. And it's just human nature. We all know to buy low and sell high. But in fact, what human nature teaches us is, when the market drops, everybody wants to get out. And then they want to get back in when things are looking good, which means the markets come back up. So it's doing the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. And that's what one of the important things that I believe of having an advisor is there to to help you walk through this and process this so you don't make mistakes when it comes to trying to time your investments, because as we all know, it's impossible to try to time the market.
One of the things that Mark talks about a lot is making sure that you are efficient as far as your taxes are concerned. And a lot of folks make bad investment choices in an effort to save money on taxes. And sometimes you can really get in trouble that way.
Yeah, I always say it's not how much money you make, it's how much you make after fees and taxes. And so what we do here in the office is tax planning, because there's different ways to manage money. Depending on if your account's an IRA account, it should be managed one way. If it's a non-IRA, what we call non-qualified, that should be managed differently because the tax consequences of taking money out of each of those accounts is different. So we can help in those type of decisions of ways that we, one, manage the money, and two, if you need to draw money out of an account, which one makes the most sense, et cetera. So, there's more to it than just the investing side.
We have said so many times that you shouldn't procrastinate. That's one of the easiest things in the world to do. Like folks who procrastinate in calling your number. They say, I'll do it next week or I'll do it next month, and then end up not doing it at all. And that applies to a lot of things. Sometimes people leave too much money in cash for a very long period of time because they procrastinated instead of actively deciding what to do with that money.
That is 100% correct, Ron. I mean, we see it a lot. You have to have a certain amount of emergency cash, and whether that be 3 to 6 months worth of expenses at a minimum. Some of our clients that are retired will even be more conservative, and we'll even shoot for 12 months worth of expenses should be liquid. But any more than that, you're losing purchasing power, and sitting in cash in too long, you're losing purchasing power. And so you have to, in my opinion, make at least 3% net of fees and taxes in order just to stay even with inflation. So it's important that you have the right amount of cash, but any more than that, it's not working in your favor.
Here on Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman, we talk about paralysis by analysis. And what that means is you get into a position where you overthink every decision to the point that you never really make any decision at all. I know that a lot of people that you've talked to, Mark, fall into that category.
We see it from time to time. I don't see it as much, but you can't overanalyze things and never do anything. It's like trying to buy a computer or a TV. If you're waiting for prices to go lower and the technology to get better, you're never going to buy anything, because the fact of the matter is things, computers always get faster and always seem to be getting cheaper as well. And so, the same thing can be true in this investment field as well, because if you're always trying to analyze, should you do this and should you do that? And don't get me wrong, you need to do your homework, but at some point you need to get involved and do something with your money. Procrastinating, like you said before, can be a big problem for a lot of people, and just taking action and doing something sometimes is the best method.
If you listen to this show on a regular basis, you know that Mark Silverman is a certified financial planner professional, and he's been doing this for a very long time. However, there are some people out there who just blindly trust financial advice from people who are not financial professionals, whether it be a brother-in-law or a next-door neighbor. And when somebody's giving you advice like that, that's not really coming from a good place.
One, you have to make sure that the person knows all the information about you, whether it be another advisor or be your neighbor or brother-in-law, like you said. That person needs to know everything about your situation. They also need to be well-trained and well-versed in what they're talking about. It is confusing. I can tell you from the individual consumer, people are confused of what separates, what I do versus what somebody else does. There's a lot of people on the radio, and, let's face it, the majority of the people are just insurance-only licensed, and they're strictly selling products, mainly annuities. That's all they do. So if you think they're going to do anything other than that, you're mistaken, unfortunately. It's different when you're a CFP, a certified financial planner. I believe I'm still the only one on the radio here in town. And so I'm well versed in all the different areas, and I have to take a different approach and look holistically at everything versus somebody who's there just to sell you a product. And it does get confusing because everybody puts themselves out there as, anybody can call themselves a financial advisor, let's face it. Even financial planner gets used pretty loosely as well. But it's important that you understand what the differences are and what the credentials are. I think if you're seeking out an advisor, for my money, I would seek out a CFP, go to the website and look for CFPs. You can find out who's been vetted and who's accredited, et cetera, and know what you're dealing with versus somebody who just is, selling product.
Mark, I know that there are a lot of folks out there listening today who would love to give you a call and come in and have a conversation about all of these things. What can they expect when they come into your office at Silverman & Associates?
Sure, Ron. Well, whether you're a first-time listener to the show or if you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your opportunity to come in and have a conversation with me in my office to go through this process that we call the financial physical. And I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. Rather, we'll discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who is actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And as part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets. And we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This becomes the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson, and the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone, however our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting to the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman, and Mark's number is 520-333-7601. You can call that number or text 520-333-7601. Either way, you're going to have an opportunity to come in and sit down and have a conversation with Mark Silverman face-to-face about your individual financial situation. And there is no carbon copy, there is no one-size-fits-all, and no blanket way to handle everybody's retirement because everybody's situation is different. Mark will put together a customized plan for you when you come into his office, and he can find out more about you and vice versa. 520-333-7601 is your number to get in touch with Silverman and Associates in Tucson, and of course, serving folks from all over southern Arizona. Mark Silverman is his name. Please remember that. SavingWithSilverman.com is the website. Get in touch, and you can come in and have that conversation. There's more coming up on today's edition of Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman.
You finished school and worked hard to get your first job. You told yourself you'd save for retirement, but that old jalopy you bought when you were 16 broke down, so you bought a new one. You started to save, and soon you bought your first home. Then came pets, kids, and your world changed some more. You worked hard to provide for your family. You made sure your kids got a good education. You might be sending them to school right now, or maybe it's the grandkids' turn. And of course, you're now making sure your parents are looked after. Through the years you lovingly sacrificed for your family, now it's time to take care of you. Love others well by taking care of yourself. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman to discover how to build a financial plan that'll continue providing for you and the ones you love for years to come.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman with the one and only Mark Silverman of Silverman and Associates in Tucson. 520-333-7601. Call or text 520-333-7601. As we've said so many times in the show, Mark is a fiduciary. That means that he has your best interest at heart. And if you come in and have a conversation with Mark, he can certainly help put together a customized plan for you and at least tell you where you are with the financial physical. That's the planning process. The financial physical can be yours, no obligation, no cost for that phone call, 520-333-7601. Mark, when it comes to financial planning, there are some very disturbing statistics out there, and these retirement planning statistics are gathered from across the nation. Do they reflect what you see and experience locally with your clients in Tucson and the surrounding area and others that may come to visit you? Number one, 76% of baby boomers around the country are not confident that they have enough money saved for retirement. How does that fit what you see going on in Tucson?
I would say that's probably either right on or that number maybe even a little bit too low. I mean, most people that are coming in is because they have concerns, and people's number one concern is they're going to run out of money, or do they have enough to retire, or if they're already retired, are they going to be able to maintain their lifestyle with what they're spending, and making sure that they have more money than they do years. And so that number, I think, is pretty representative, although it may be even a little bit lower because most people are not confident. And the only way you can be confident, quite honestly, is to have somebody do a financial plan for you to run the numbers to make sure you're doing everything possible and making sure that all your goals and your investments, everything's laid out in a plan and then illustrated and projected forward to make sure that you don't run out of money, making sure you have enough for inflation, healthcare, all those sorts of things. But again, unless you have a financial plan, I mean, how do you really know?
And of course, the key word there is plan, which I think you just mentioned 3 times, certainly so important. 30% of workers around the country say they don't know what to do with the funds in their 401k. How does that play out in Tucson?
I think that number seems low, although maybe some people think they know what they're doing with their funds in their 401k, and actually they don't. So I guess it's better to at least admit if you're wrong than to be wrong and not admit it. Is that how it goes? But I would say, most people are not allocated properly, or maybe they allocated their 401k when they first started and they haven't made any changes. They haven't rebalanced it. They haven't adjusted it as they've gotten older, et cetera. Sometimes there's new investment choices that are added into 401ks. They haven't taken advantage of those. So a lot of people aren't very active with their 401ks. Certainly rebalancing is probably one of the bigger ones. But I would say that, most people don't know what they're doing with 401k. So I think that number 30% seems pretty low to me.
Well, here's one that might surprise some people too. Certainly it surprises me. Only 24% of retirees work with a financial advisor of some sort. I mean, that's kind of a scary statistic when you think about all those people out there trying to do it all by themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot of DIYers. I mean, from the radio, I would say we get, I say it's probably a mixture of some people doing it themselves and people working with another advisor that they're not happy with or just want to get a second opinion to make sure that they're doing everything possible and that their advisor is doing the best job possible for them. But, a lot of people maybe don't feel they need an advisor till a certain time period. And I think that's true to some extent. But once you start saving and you have a lot of issues, or if you're thinking about retirement, you really need to sit down with someone who can kind of walk you through it and things that point you in the right direction as far as things that you're doing right, and also pointing out and being honest with you of things that maybe you're not doing as well that can be improved.
Mark, I know that your job would be a lot easier if people had pensions the way they used to, and if people had such short lifestyles the way they used to do, or lifespans, I should say. But 25% of 65-year-olds out there right now will live past the age of 90, and that's just amazing. So that requires a lot of planning.
It does. And in fact, those numbers are going to continue because we're seeing more and more people living longer. Each generation is living longer than the last. So it's making sure that you have the money to cover those kind of costs. And unfortunately, when you get to those ages, a lot of those costs can be healthcare related. And, Medicare only covers certain expenses. And if you're one of the fortunate people to have some type of long-term care strategy that you have in place, that's great. But most people don't. And so you've got to figure out how you're going to pay for those sorts of things. And, that's where planning, and I know I keep mentioning planning, but I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but that's the crux of what we do. And unless a client has a plan, they really don't know where they stand. The advisor doesn't know where they stand if they haven't put the time in to put a plan together for the client. And so just being sold products or being sold, investment management without really looking at the numbers is a big mistake, in my opinion.
And to roll that statistic around a little bit, if you're listening to the show today and you're 65 years old right now, there's a 25% chance that you are going to live past the age of 90. And are you confident that you have enough saved for retirement? A lot to think about here, and certainly a lot to talk about. You might want to come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman about your situation. Mark, what can you do for those folks who call into the show now?
Well, just like you get a second opinion on your health, why wouldn't you get a second opinion on your wealth? So whether you're a do-it-yourselfer, like we mentioned, or already working with someone else, this is your chance to go through a process we call the financial physical. Do you know what your investments are costing you? If you're still working, are you on track to have the type of retirement you've always envisioned? Or if you're already retired, do you know if you or your spouse are at risk of running out of money while trying to maintain your current lifestyle? Well, I can assure you I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. And I'll repeat, this is not a sales meeting. In this initial meeting, we'll address issues of importance to you, provide an overall view of your situation, and give you some general advice on what needs to be completed. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who is actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson, and the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 per hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. Just as you want to reach a healthy life from a physical standpoint, you also want to reach and maintain great financial health. So our financial physical is just what the doctor ordered. We try our best to help everyone. However, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting to the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. Call that number right now. Don't have to wait until the end of the show. 520-333-7601. You can call or you can send a text to that number. Either way, that'll put you in touch with Silverman and Associates. And of course, that's where you'll find Mark Silverman, because he is here to help you. He has helped so many couples, individuals, so many families, and even working with different generations. And certainly he has your best interests at heart. The number to call again or text 520-333-7601. You're listening to Saving with Silverman with the one and only Mark Silverman of Silverman and Associates. And there's more coming up on the show right after this.
Picture this. Your financial statements have come in the mail. What's going through your head as you open them up? Maybe all that financial jargon is flustering. Maybe the numbers are confusing, or maybe those red arrows are leaving you in a funk. Don't base your future on a monthly letter. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman. Learn what true financial planning really looks like.
All right, welcome back to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman of Silverman and Associates. If you want to go to Mark's website, it is savingwithsilverman.com. That is savingwithsilverman.com. His planning process is called the Financial Physical, and you can get that Financial Physical with no obligation and no cost. All you got to do is call this number or text to this number, 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Just leave a message and Mark's office will get back with you, and then you can come in and have a conversation with Mark. He's not going to put you off on anybody else either. You'll actually be able to sit down face to face and talk with Mark. 520-333-7601. Mark, as you know, we always have great questions come in on the request line. Our first question today is from Mike in Midvale Park. Mike says, my father died in his late 60s and my mother died in her early 70s. So I'm not really planning to have much longevity myself. Does this mean I should start Social Security as early as I can?
Well, Mike, that's a great question, and not necessarily. So, part of our planning process, one of the things that we do is we do a full Social Security analysis to show with your actual information. It's not a cookie cutter approach. We actually take the year you're born and how much your benefit is. And if you're married, we'll put your spouse's information in there as well. And it'll actually show you what's the best way to take Social Security to maximize it. The one input that we have to use, though, is life expectancy. And I can tell you, when we run plans, we typically run them into the early to mid 90s for most people. The most I've ran is I have a client right now where we ran her plan to 110 because she's pretty confident. Both of her parents lived to 100 or one even over 100. And so she's pretty confident she's going to live to 110. Unless you have some type of terminal illness or something like that we know, even if you were to live into your early to mid 80s, you typically would be better off taking Social Security at the latest age, which is 70, because when we do run these plans, and we're happy to run those and kind of show you what those look like. But when we do run these, typically once you live past age 81 or 82, you typically are better suited to take it later because you're going to make more money that way.
Okay, that's our question and answer for Mike in Midvale Park. Let's go to Oral Valley, where Harry has a question. Harry says his daughter just turned 18. He'd really like to help her get off on the right foot with retirement savings. What's the best way to get her started?
Well, Harry, that's an excellent question. Assuming she has some type of earned income, the best thing would be setting her up with a Roth IRA, in my opinion. So, but she has to have earned income. So depends on what she does. If she doesn't, then you might have to put it in some other type of account. It can't be a retirement account if you don't have earned income. But if she does have some earned income, the best thing to do is have her set up a Roth IRA.
Okay, there you go. That's a short and sweet answer. Sure. And certainly the best thing to do is to come in and have a conversation with Mark, because there might be other things that you want to explore and certainly to talk about. One last question today, Mark, on the show. Gloria in Vail has a question, and she says, our house is a lot bigger than what we need now, so we should probably downsize. But it's the place where we raised our family, so I'm emotionally attached to it. Is it foolish for me to keep it when we could live somewhere else cheaper?
Well, Gloria, that's a good question. It just depends on what you're looking at doing. You obviously have to be happy with where you're living. If you feel that it's too much to maintain and that you may feel more comfortable downsizing, then certainly. But, if you don't want to, then you don't have to. I mean, it's really looking at the plan to make sure that if you can financially afford to keep it and the upkeep is okay with you, you're able to maintain it. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. But, if you do want to explore other options, looking to maybe get a condo or something smaller, certainly nothing wrong with that either. But you're going to have to look and see what that may cost versus, what you would get if you were to sell your house, if you have a mortgage, paying that off, realtor fees, et cetera, and seeing what you would walk out with. Sometimes it's a big difference, sometimes it's not. So those are some of the things you have to think about. But, in regarding to your overall plan, that would be one of the things you want to consider.
All right. That's good questions today from Gloria, Harry, and Mike. And certainly, as I said before, best idea is to come in and have a conversation face-to-face with Mark. And Mark, what happens when they make that phone call to make that happen?
Well, Ron, we had some great questions this week, and I just want to remind everybody, if you go to our website, which is savingwithsilverman.com, click on the media tab, and then you could submit your question, and there's a good chance you'll get to hear it here on the air. So now's my chance to ask you a simple question, and I want to see if you could answer it honestly and objectively as possible. Aside from the happy hellos and how's the family, and aside from the occasional lunch or golf game, I get it. I'm as much friends with many of my clients. They become true friends over the many years. But I think the question has to be asked, especially in light of the stakes. Is your current financial advisor truly adding value beyond a doubt? And I'll repeat, is your current financial advisor truly adding value? It's a valid question, as a friendship or just relationship allows you not to be in a position to ask those critical questions. Are you talking about taxes? Are you talking about Social Security and income and risk and diversification and insurance and estate planning and healthcare? Are you having those annual reviews, but hopefully it's more frequently than that? Is there detailed follow-up? Is there accountability? If you are, if all of that is happening, congratulations, because you've got a great relationship, and send your financial advisor a thank you. But if you're not having that, if you're not feeling the value, if you're not having these in-depth conversations, then you owe it to yourself and really to your family to have a conversation with someone else, because if you don't, you're the one that's going to suffer. You're the one that's going to pay the cost, and it'll cost you in more ways than you'll ever know. Let us prove to you how we can help your money go further in retirement. Let us show you with our financial physical. I believe you'll be surprised at what you'll learn, and this won't cost you anything. Give us a call or send us a text to 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601, or check us out online at savingwithsilverman.com. That's savingwithsilverman.com. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. Call or text 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman will put your portfolio through a financial physical to make sure it's up to the test to survive and thrive in retirement. And that's what this radio show is all about, planning for your retirement, having the kind of retirement that you've always wanted to have, and not having to lie awake at night wondering if you're going to run out of your money or outlive your money. 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text. 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman is your certified financial planner professional, the founder and managing member of Silverman & Associates in Tucson. Mark, it's been a pleasure being with you today.
Ron, always happy to be here. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen.
You've been listening to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman.
Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, product, service, or investment strategy. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified advisor, tax professional, or attorney before implementing any strategy or recommendation discussed herein.